And we're live. All right. Welcome, friends. Welcome, everyone who joined us in the stream today. I am your host, Yanko, and we're here with my wonderful co host, Kerri Lewis, who's coming from the Yoda side.
What's going on? So, y'all, so I'm just saying,
she,
probably
she's
not the
really
wisest idea to shave your head going into winter. But I'm like, you know what? That's cool because then I can rock the Jedi Master look. So I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
I was gonna say, Kerri's bringing the force with her today, so it's gonna be a wonderful episode.
Yeah, the force of love. It's so funny. My niece said to me the other day, she's like, Titi, I had this picture and I made it for you and it has your favorite word. And I was perplexed and I'm like, oh, yeah. So I waited for it and it was a love. And I said to myself, I'm doing it right. If my 7-year-old niece knows that what I stand for and my favorite word is love, I'm like, yes, sir. Yeah, yeah. So what's going on with
Wonderful,
you
yes,
this
yes.
lovely Friday
And
morning?
well, I'm taking out the sun that's coming from an outside. I mean, it's kind of chilly outside, but in inside it's nice. So I'm in the same team as you are. Welcome to fall winterish, because here in Chicago really don't have four seasons. Some people say we even have winter and construction only.
That is so funny.
so it is kind of nice to have something in between to kind of enjoy. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I love this
but
time of
even
year.
coming from yeah, but even coming from, I mean, some of the viewers might not know, I took a break in and went on vacation in a sunshiny place when everything was sunny and nice and hot, and now this is kind of like um, too stressful, like coming in from like way too hot to way too cold. Like it's a huge jump. Like there was
Yeah.
almost no fall for me this year. So yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm good. I love this weather. Probably would have thought better about shaving my head if I really thought it through, but I never do that anyway because I'm highly impulsive, which I remember, I think that's a good point to talk about. I remember people telling me that there was something wrong with me for being impulsive. And yet when I look back at all of the greatest moments of my life that I've ever experienced, the bravest moments of my life, it has all been spontaneous, instinctual choices. And anytime I get caught up in thinking, I don't do it. It like freezes me. I overthink, and so it is what it is. I just wear a hat or this, and I love rocking skulls, so it just gives me an excuse to rock more skull stuff. Really,
That's right. I
yeah,
think being impulsive is not good or bad. Like anything in life, it's not either good or bad. Um, we're trying to be fit in the good or the bad by conditioning and other things. So, if you asked me a couple years back if being impulsive it's good or bad, I'll say, well, probably it's bad because sometimes you regret things. But then, in the other side of the coin, you might miss on things because you weren't taking decisions. You were just like, kind of stuck in a loop. Should I? Should, and then you regret it anyway. So,
I don't.
yeah.
There's nothing
And
that
with
I
that, I
regret.
also want to say hello to some of our viewers, like Gail Craft.
Ooh, will Gail be joining us today? Or are you just an audience member? Either way, we're so blessed and joy filled that you're here. Um, I will tell you, I have no regrets on even the things that I look back on and I'm like, I just, I love who I am because this is where, I had this conversation with my community yesterday. If we can come from non-judgment and curiosity, even the greatest quote unquote mistakes that we've made are offer so many lessons and so many blessings. And so I have no regrets, and I still am just so grateful about every choice I've made, even when those choices have wounded me immensely, which, they do, because I've made some interesting choices in my life. Are you delayed? You look so serious.
I am
Okay.
delayed, and it takes a little bit.
Yes. Oh, I agree with you. That's a good one. Mhm. I'm impulsive based on so good point. So last week I'm like da da da. Nana's like, babe, I'm going into NYCC. Okay, cool. I have the weekend without one of my daughters, without Nana, no real responsibilities. Gail want to hang out, and she's like, yes. And I'm like, oh, the heavens opened up and it was a thing. And then I'm like, ah. So, I love being intuitively guided. But I also think, to Gail's point, and this is important for the listening audience, you have to cultivate self-trust, right? And what Gail said about, coming from ego and it being a train wreck. It really, for me, if I'm impulsive based on fear, then I tend to make decisions that cause suffering. I mean, and until I realize, oh shit, I made a decision out of fear, I'm gonna sit in the train wreck. So I totally agree with that, and I love that so much. So anyway, you said that I look like I was coming from the dark side before we jumped on, and I have to disagree. I think I'm coming from the light, and you look like you're coming from the dark, because you have like this yin yang effect going on, like the dark and the
Yeah.
light.
Well,
I like it.
what I have to say about that.
So there's a lot of delay between me and Yanko, guys. So that's cool. We're gonna go with the flow. In fact, Yanko, I can't help but jump in again because it's taken you a minute to hear what I say.
Yeah, in Kerri looks like a Jedi.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Um, I don't know. You know how they always say that in Star Wars, like the dark side, it's gonna get you, and
Yep. Okay. Well, interestingly enough, I just read
we're
something
we're
that
we're
talked.
way out of sync.
Yes, yes, that talked
Oh,
about
that's
the fact.
okay. That's the beauty.
Yeah. But it talked about the fact that people can't sit in silence with each other for 15 seconds. Now, in the interest of being a show, obviously, I wouldn't suggest that we sit in silence, given the fact that well, we are not supposed to do anything. I mean, I can just sit here. But obviously it's more engaging when people talk, right? But I do think that it's fascinating that people can't sit in silence with each other. And I see it so often. I'll be in the car with people, and 5 seconds in, up, I got to put on music. And I noticed when I'm driving with certain people, if I'm driving, I won't put on music because I'm very content in silence. I'm like, ah, and I start to feel people's anxiety. They're like, whoa. What are your thoughts on that? Gail, you might have to jump in with your text, because I'm not sure Yanko's gonna pick up what I'm putting down.
No, I'm picking up okay, and you know, we got this message from Gail. I want to put it out there, and I agree with her of like the dark side. It's something to make friends with. It's and me like you. I don't mind being by in silence with myself. I wasn't gonna say it by myself, but with myself, which is great. I appreciate alone time, or you're never alone. Really, that's the reality of it. You're with the greatest creation. Like everything it's with you. So there isn't really um, any time when you like really by yourself. So the more you become okay by being with yourself, the better you're gonna be at like helping other being with themselves, and then you just kind of share that with the rest of the people or whoever joins you. It's like having your own party. And it's like, hey, here's the party. You want to join? Come on in. If you don't, you can stay on the side, watch, whatever. But you can dip your toe in or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah. I yeah, it's just interesting. So I
and
have
hopefully you're getting this, or maybe you're not getting it because you're
I have
typing something.
a wow, that threw me off.
Yes.
Okay. I have a networking group that I often work on how I stay silent, and just kind of observe what's going on with people. And it's so interesting that, sorry, I was just, all right, guys, I was distracted because I was texting Gail to see if we were freezing, which we were, which is fine. Um, so I have a networking group in which I really try to sit back in silence and observe and just kind of see how people unfold. So that way I can see if I get uncomfortable, which sometimes I do, and if people are able to sit in that space in silence. And it's very fascinating the lessons that come up personally for me, but also how much more meaningful I feel like the connections of that group are, because we can hold space for each other in curiosity without actually speaking, but energetically.
Okay. But yeah, keep on going with the people with the curiosity. We're getting out of sync, but that's okay.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. Yanko, it's all
So
good because
we're
we
gonna
can
attempt to bring
entertain them the
Gail
way we
in,
do.
and we'll see what happens.
Listen, the way I see it is it's working out the way it's meant to. And, you know, for our community, that's the thing is we are so uncomfortable with discomfort. And when we have the ability to just be with whatever's going on without making up a story, without, oh my God, I'm going to upset our listening audience, or, oh my God, Kerri's doing this, or blah, blah, blah. Then we open ourselves to a beautiful experience rather than creating tension by having these unfulfilled expectations. And so that's why I love this, because it gives us an opportunity to remind all of you that we can plan to the best of
That's
our
right.
ability, but that's not life. Life is not about planning. Life is about showing up in each moment and coming from curiosity. And in that, we then get special gifts like dear friends who show up, and your hair is looking fabulous. Okay, I see you.
It's raggedy, and I promised myself I wasn't going to style it. I'm going to let it do its thing and honor it and see what happens.
No, I don't think it I think it's I mean, I think about I don't know, the 1980s punk rocker chick who shags out her hair and I love it. I think
It's
the
Mother
only difference.
Nature. It's Mother Nature.
Yeah,
So I love the conversations that you guys have, even though you're out of sync and it's disconnected. It's kind of hilarious, kind of watching that.
I
Um,
know it is. And you know what's so funny? What I love about it, and you'll get what I'm saying, you can feel the energy shifts between us when we're like, and then we're like, nope, go with the flow. And then we're like, and then you're like, go with the flow. And I think it's important to highlight that because each moment we have a choice how we're gonna show up in the situation.
yes, and I want to get back to originally you were talking about following your intuition and just right. So I want to share with you, and I shared last week as well, and I still don't have a link yet. Sorry, it's like fresh, so far. It's not even 2 weeks old. So I've been going through a metamorphosis, going through a change, and just sitting with it and allowing it to happen and honoring it. And as a result, I had an aha moment where I owned part of me that I've been trying not to own, right? And that part is that I'm a spiritual leader. I am a leader and I am spiritual. Step into it.
Mhm.
So, as a result, right, I'm creating two communities. It's called the inner circle, outer rim. The outer rim is a discord conversation, chit chat about what's going on spiritually with you experientially, not what you've read somewhere or blah blah blah. I'm not interested in that. It's like, what am I feeling now because of what's going on? That's discord. That's like a chat. The other is the inner circle. And the inner circle is where we hold this kind of conversation about what's going on spiritually. Okay, go ahead, babe. We'll be fine. What's going on spiritually and how you feel and how that's changing the world, right? And those meetings I've got broken down, of course, once a week, then quarterly during the spring equinox, the summer solstice, right? So those quarterly, really high energy moments, and then some offline meetings, maybe some face to face stuff. So that this community of people, the light workers, if you want to call them, who are working solo. Can you imagine if we weren't?
Mhm.
Bam,
It's true.
bam, right? And so it's the opportunity for folks to get to meet other people within that community and expand. And the energy, I think more and more of these kinds of communities are being created,
Yeah.
and it's causing an exponential shift, right?
For sure. I
For
love it. And it's so funny because I like you. I love this because I like I'm a leader. I think about back when I was 5 or 6 years old, rounding up my young brothers and sisters to put on a performance for my mom to cheer her up. And so I always think about it. And it's funny because you and I have talked. I keep getting invited into all these communities, paid communities, and I'm like, I honestly, God keeps smacking me upside the head. And it's not that I don't think it's not that I think I'm better than anybody. It's not. It's that I diminish my power because I keep showing up and helping other people build. Now, the difference between you and I and is I will not plan anything. It's just not who I am. I've come to my best work comes from just showing up. And it's helpful that, like, I have people like Yanko who is super awesome with tech because otherwise, like, my show might come on, might not. But I used to feel so guilty about that. I used to feel like there was something wrong with me. And now I feel like where you're like, I know that I'm a spiritual guide. I am too, but you know what spirit tells me to teach? Play.
Yes.
It tells me to be spontaneous and to sing and to and so that's why I love connecting with you and Yanko and all of these other people in these modalities, because you guys all offer the pieces that I just don't, and I'm okay with that, and it's all collectively helping the collective consciousness rise, because we need all those pieces working congruently, like
Yes.
not competing. There's no
Yes.
competition. It's just love. It's me saying, hey, I know this woman Gail Craft who has the inner circle, and Gail Craft jumping on our show, and Yanko meeting this person and whatever. And when we do that and we separate ego, all of it's love.
And it's figuring out how it works for all of us,
Yeah.
right? Which is what I've done with the inner circle. I mean, this is everybody that's involved is going to be making money.
Yeah.
Right? That's the whole point. It's not an ego driven enterprise, if you will.
Yeah.
It is to serve. So for me, what I'm seeing happen, and this is from my experience, right? Um, is that those walls that used to exist that said we are competitors are melting away.
Yeah.
I have so many collaborations I'm working on right now where people have come to me and said, Gail, let's work together. And I'm like, well, what does that look like? Well, I'm thinking this, and I'm like, okay, right? Because working together isn't me joining your affiliation program, guys, just saying. Because I've gotten that too. Yeah, here's the link to my affiliation program. Yeah, no, I'm not selling for you.
Well, you know what? I have to tell you, what really rubbed me the wrong way is when I was put in touch with people who were networking. I love network. I love people. Oh, I'm not networking. You have to meet me in my community. I'm like, you just totally made it so I will never join your community. Now, I know that's ego. I'm going to own that. But for me, what is so loving is conversation, even if it's to jump on and be like, hey, I got this community. That's more loving than, nope, sorry, not working with you because you won't. I'm like,
Right? Right. And so, yes. So I will meet with you anytime, any place,
me
anywhere,
too.
if I have the space,
Yeah.
right? Because it's the conversation that elevates us, right,
Yes.
Yanko? I mean, it really is. You elevate me, and right, and I get to elevate you. He's so behind. He's like
He's
Yanko.
so delayed. I mean, this is hilarious. Okay, but no, but anyway, to get off that tangent, I think, to your point, uh you and I and Yanko, like, we're committed to creating safe spaces. And it's so funny. I read this book last week by Parker Palmer. Anyway, it talks about creating a safe space that lets the soul come out. And I didn't align with everything that he talked about, but what he said that really had resonance with me is, like, really creating spaces where people.
No, I am just going, and I'm just probably going in slow motion because of the skull freezing up uh, thing. But
You can't make this up. Oh
So I have to tell you
my god.
that I have been slipping into the fourth dimension a lot.
Yeah.
Fourth dimension is no time and space,
Yep.
which means, like, my daughter the other day said, Mom, you've been saying it's Thursday for like 4 days now. It's not Thursday. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Right? So
Yeah.
Yanko being out of sync is
Is
hilarious
hilarious.
because that's what happens when when I'm out of sync with time and space.
Yeah.
right? And so I just have to go with the flow and just like do whatever because
Yeah.
I am literally living out of sync, guys. Just let you know.
Well, it's so funny. The greatest explanation I ever read about that was by, and I always bring him up, is Dr. David R. Hawkins, because
I
he
love
wrote a
Hawkins.
book. I've read all his work, and he wrote a book extensively about his experience of, he eventually transcended ego in his human experience. So he talks about how interesting it was because people would see him as awkward because he would, like, it was all happening, so there was this pause because it's just interesting. So I get it. I've not experienced that, and I love that you brought it up because I was in ego yesterday, basically taking a temper tantrum to Yanko. I'm like, well, this isn't fair, and then I'm like, who cares? Like, am I having a really good time in my human experience? Hell to the hell yes. Do I believe I make a massive impact on the people I'm meant to make an impact on? Hell to the hell yes. So if it happens, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm sure there'll be many moments again where I'll be taking a temper tantrum, but then I'll just have to come back to laughter and be like, well, it's just the ego trying to force something that really in the end it doesn't want to happen anyway because it means the death of the ego.
Right? And the ego doesn't die,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Because
I
if the
know, but
ego
it's
died,
a
I would die,
control.
right? Right? But it's who's running the ship, you or ego. And honestly, so here's another thing. So we're gonna get very woo here because that's who I am, guys. So suck it up. Um, so I wrote a book, Journey to Enlightenment, and part of that book, I explain us as being an avatar and who's really controlling the avatar, right? Um, though we have free will and we can ignore, that's ego, ignore the direction and go wherever the fuck we want anyway, right?
Yep.
So lately, I have watched the puppeteer within me. So I've been watching the puppeteer say, hey, for chuckles, let's go this way. Oh, isn't that hilarious? So the puppeteer is like a child playing with us. This is just
Yeah.
a game. So lighten up. It's just a
Yeah.
game. Just
It
like,
is. It is. It's, and I like, again, I work in mental health and addiction recovery. We're talking about unconscious, low vibration people. So I don't always have it's not that I have not that I don't have the ability, because of course I do, but I don't go there because it's so far removed from where the level of consciousness is from my community, which is okay.
yeah.
But you're right, it's a freaking game. That's why on any given day, anybody could get me singing to them like a random made up whatever, because who cares? and
Right.
and it's so interesting. I just had my physical, and my doctor, Kerri, you're past due on your mammogram, blah blah. I'm like, and I really don't care because I know I'm fine. Like, I'm like, you knew you were fine, even though the world was telling you. I'm like, okay. So I mean, to
Yeah.
appease her, I did it, but I'm like, I'll know when I know that I need to take action. I trust that, and that's being connected to source.
I have to tell you the list of vaccinations I have said no to is like huge. My last physical, the doctor's going through them, and then she stopped and she said, "You're saying no to all of them." I'm like, "That's correct." Right? She says, "Well, I would highly suggest such and such," and I'm like, "Yeah, no."
Yeah. I do get vaccinated personally, but I don't like, I'm not tied to it one way or the other. If my children want to be vaccinated, fine. If they don't, they don't. Like, again, I feel like it's a belief behind that really kind of trips you up. And this is where I vacillate, because, like, yeah, I'm sure they're putting shit in the vaccinations. And yet, if I don't buy into the fear around what's in it, then it's not really going to impose upon me in a meaningful way anyway. So, I've
Yeah,
been
so
curious.
when I got the original COVID, you
Yeah,
know, vaccines, and I spent time, alchemizing that poison out of my body,
yeah,
right? Well, I think that trained me for alchemizing chemo out of my body,
yep,
right? Um, and that was really so important to understand. Guys, I did Western medicine and Eastern medicine.
yep.
I did them together. And at this point in my life, I am taking no meds, nothing. And every time I see a doctor, a dentist, whatever, I get, so are you taking blah, blah? I'm like, no, really? Because the doctor's response, the oncologist's response to me was, I don't know what you're doing, but it's working. Keep it
Yeah,
up.
it's true. Well, it's so fascinating. In fact, you might know her. She's a doctor. She's 85. Inge, and I don't even know how to pronounce her name. She's
Yeah.
from Switzerland. I want her on this show, but I want to connect you with her too.
Yeah, I do.
Yo, she's just, I've talked to her yesterday and I said to her this one, I'm like, you left me with so many more questions than I have before. So we need to have you on the show. But her work is helping people heal energetically from all allergies, and it's based in energy. And this woman's 85. I thought she was in her 60s. Like, she is healthy as a horse. It was so cool. So I really do believe, above all things, our belief system creates our reality. And if you're not afraid, then you're creating love. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of.
True, true. And so let's get back to I don't know, there's so much that we covered.
That's why I love this show, because it truly is for no particular reason.
It's no particular reason.
That's right.
So what's interesting, yay, you're actually in sync, I think, Yanko.
I
What's
know. Finally, like internet
good you
issues.
could join us.
Woo!
Good you could join us. What I'm talking about lately is even though I live in a spiritual manner, there is no freaking woo, guys. It is who we are. It's what we are. We are the miracles that we pretend don't exist. Everything that we have thought to be true was intended to control us. And the moment that I decided not to be controlling, I no longer could be controlled.
Mhm. Ooh, that's so good. Go ahead, Yanko.
That's right. No, I was gonna say that's why a lot of the Eastern teachings are just flow like a river, or a lot of the practices, even with the tai chis and other things, they're just like moving with the flow and learning how to do all that stuff. So, um,
I
and usually it's like the universal law. Like what you put out, that's what you get in return. So if you're controlling, you're gonna get controlled. So you
Yep,
get off the hook by not controlling. So it's
yep,
like one of those
Right?
things.
And then
Yeah.
accepting that people are mirrors for me, which means if
Yep.
I don't like something that's being mirrored back to me, then that is within me that I don't like. So
Right.
I need to look within me to figure out what is it that I need to work on here.
yeah.
Right.
Right.
So I'm gonna shout out this guy, David Bear. And it's rare. It's honestly rare that I read a current healer, spiritual person, not because I don't respect them. I just tend to lean into old texts. Like, that's just my jam, that and quantum physics. But
Hmm.
this woman, Barb, uh, recommended it, and I read it in a day, and it was everything that I did myself to heal. Like, he literally put down in this work everything I did to heal. And so I've sent it to all my clients, because essentially he breaks down with the scientific quantifiable data on top of tying in all the spiritual stuff that we all know, to the point that our beliefs create our reality, right? And so for my community, who's like, Oh, and I sent this to somebody the other day. I know somebody who is so attached to their illness. I can't even tell you. Every time I talk to this person, they have a new thing. And so I sent a question to them. And I said, I don't want an answer. I just want you to ponder this. And we can unpack it another time if you so choose. Do you believe that you can live in perfect health? And the answer is really going to be their experience. And the reality is, I get that it's a practice, but guys, there's so much evidence of people healing. There's evidence of people growing limbs. There's evidence of, I mean, the data's out there. So even if you, and look, Christ says you just need a grain of salt of faith. It doesn't say believe the whole thing. It says leap and the net will appear. And it doesn't say you can't be fearful. It just says keep surrendering. But if you hold true to, nope, I'm ADHD, I'm bipolar, I have cancers that are going to kill me, I'm going to blah, 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 then the reality is you get to keep that. And that gets to be your experience. It's not that I want to take that experience away. It's just that Gail, Yanko, myself, and many other people have come to understand that that does not have to be your experience if you decide you want something different.
Now, one of the things that I've discovered in this process for me is to be very aware, because you need to be on guard with the programming that happens all the time. And I'm going to do the cancer thing, even though I am not a cancer survivor. I never was at war with my body, so all of that shit, stop. So my first day at radiation, so this is after going through chemo and I was a mess, right? The radiologist or whatever oncology doctor says, oh yeah, if this comes up again, they both have to come off. Now, I'm a person who was very aware that she just put a negative program in my brain.
Yep.
Right? And my first thought was the mental finger. My second was as soon as I got home, I did 2 trauma release programs to get that trauma out of my head. Now, it's still a fact. It still was said. It still happened, but it has no control over me. That doctor implants on patients who are vulnerable physically, mentally, emotionally, a belief. How many people have recurring cancer because of that? Many of you.
Boom. Micah drop. And so my youngest daughter, Billy, comes home yesterday and she goes to me, the math teacher said that we're all going to fail SATs because of the new math program that he has to teach. Bing, bing, bing. So I was like, bah! And she's like, Mom, don't get him fired. I don't want to sub. But I said, babe, listen, this is your experience. And I'm very, very conscious. I let my children live their experience. I don't try to control it. If you want help, I got you. If you want to figure it out, I got you. I'm just here. But I said, babe, you don't have to buy into that. Well, blah, blah, blah. I said, look, I'm not going to tell you right or wrong. I'm saying that is not a truth unless you believe it's a truth. And you were spot on. We are constantly being programmed, which goes back to why I think I love that you're doing the inner circle outer rim. I love that you're doing the inner circle. I love that Yanko is one of my ride or dies. I call him up. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Adrian Ticky, the other day, I called her. I'm like, I feel small right now because I lift myself up with people who are like, nah, that's just ego. Come back to reality, babe. You, right? But if I wasn't conscious of all of the fear-based programming, which is everywhere, then I would sit in a lot of fear.
I have to tell you, what I heard from that teacher was, I am not capable of teaching you this math.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Not that you are incapable. I am incapable of teaching you this math.
Well, to be honest, it's
Yeah,
CRM
way,
and
way
I
over my head,
hate it.
and
What?
yeah, that's why you're gonna probably fail it. The teacher probably went thinking it's way over my head, and that's why you're probably gonna like, I'll fail it.
It's actually not, and he actually has a valid point. And they're computerizing things that kids should not be sitting on the computer for 8 hours a day. So it's not that I disagree that the learning methodology doesn't serve them. It's just that how he shares it is fear-based, and it's not creating anything that's going to be results orientated. It's just saying basically you guys are going to fail, and that's where I have an issue. We all have opportunities to look at our behaviors, look at our beliefs, what it is we're operating in, fear or love in any moment. And if Gail says, Kerri, this is a fact, right now you're in fear, that's an opportunity to dial it in and then look at and take action. But if you're just spewing, Kerri, you're in fear and you're screwed, sorry, don't know what to tell you, well, then where do you go from there?
Right. I mean, so what I would say is, only you can figure out where to go,
Yes, you're right.
right? My answer is not your answer. I'm not going to tell you what to do. That's traditional coaching and I hate it. But I will hold space for you and ask you questions and help you navigate
Yep.
to your truth, to your answers. And it may not resonate with me. It's none of my business.
Yep.
This is your life. I'm here
Yep.
to support your life, not impose mine on you. There's the controlling.
And
Go ahead, Yanko.
yeah, and I was gonna add, like, I was thinking about that too, because, like, sometimes when you in your own, like, thing or your problem, you get looped, and you're like, you just can't see outside that loop, and you're just like going and going and going, and you say, well, how come I have this problem against whatever or whatever else that's going on. And then when you sit with somebody else and then ask you a problem or a question that you haven't been asked before, to get you out of that loop or to get you out of, like, that stuck thinking of way, then you have an aha moment, and everything changes.
Yeah.
So it's not like, and it's the same with me. Like, I don't sit and tell people how to be or what to be or how to do. I help them get out of the loop. Like, they'll get out of that, like, stuck thinking of way of whatever, or maybe thinking, oh, those are the only choices. Like, because usually that comes with programming. It's like either this
Mm,
or that. Like, there's no middle or there's nothing else going on. So
yeah.
you're like
You know,
Take out the
100% right.
or and put in
That's
an
all I wanted to
and.
add.
and the
Yeah.
thing that I do, right, because I totally align with that. I never tell my clients what to do. And in fact, one of my clients made a decision that I it would not have been the decision I made for her if given the opportunity, but I didn't. I let her see it through, knowing that there was going to be lessons, right?
It's her candy.
It's her candy, right? But being here to hold space for her as she moved through that candy. The thing that I'm very passionate about too, kind of like what you said, Yanko, about pointing out, those loops, is I hold people accountable for following through on the commitments that they make to themselves. So I don't tell them what they need to do. I I share, educate, and inform them on tools, strategies, behaviors, disciplines that can help them. And then we create a structure that they agree to. And then I hold them accountable to that. But I don't tell them what they need to do because, to your point, Gail, we are so individualized. And that's the problem with all of Western medicine, mental health, addiction recovery, is that we are expecting people to heal or move through the process of addiction or mental health crises in a one size fits all cookie cutter approach, and that's ridiculous.
Well, not only that, but those businesses are built to find problems.
Yep.
So they're built to find the division, the differences, and then take those differences away,
Yep.
right? We could go on and on about my belief in about autism. I believe autism are children, people that are still in the fifth and fourth dimension, and this third dimension doesn't relate to them, and they have a difficult time communicating because I know when I get a download, it's not in language.
Yeah.
right? And then I have to interpret it. And in the interpretation, I diminish the beauty and the power of that download, right? So
You
how can
can't.
Yeah.
right, you can't. And so where's their frustration where they have this beauty, this experience that doesn't relate to our I believe that's my belief, and it could be totally bullshit, but
Well,
that's
it's interesting
and
because
and and
go ahead, Yanko.
can I make a disclaimer here as usual that we're not a doctors. Don't do anything we suggest to do. Those are
right.
all our own
These are our
opinions.
own
Everyone is
opinions.
entitled to have their own opinions. Where don't take our words for it. Research, do your due
Yes.
diligence. If you decide to do something, don't take it as like this is how it is. Just a bunch of people having a coffee in the morning, having a great conversations about different things in life.
All right. Well, I'm gonna jump in with that because you made your disclaimer, and you know me. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but um, you're like, here's the thing. One, the doctor that I was talking to, there's so much evidence that suggests that wheat is a purely Roundup, right? Because of the way they grow it, it's Roundup all the way through, and
Yeah, I've
sugar.
heard the same.
And they did a study that showed that children who are autistic or anytime they eat these foods, that's when they become more aggressive, which makes sense because it's poison to our body, right? We feel like crap. So but I wanted to talk, I'm going to bring up my daughter again. She asked me the other day, Mom, would you stop me if I meet a guy and I say I'm going to get married like 2 months after meeting him? I said nope. She's like, well, thank God I have dad to talk some sense into me. I was like, the reality is one, I would hope that you would discern and know what's good for you. And two, how do you learn if you don't make mistakes or not? Who knows? My twin sister's been married to her husband. They've been together since they were 15 and very loving, right? So I am not to know. And further on, I said to both my daughters, I never ever ever want you to believe a word I said. Now I'm their mother. So they're like, they're teenagers. They're like, Mom, you're crazy. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. Do not take anything I say as fact. But we're cyborgs, guys. And I'm passionate about this. We live in the age of information. You can research, find evidence on anything any one of us have said. So please don't take what we say at face value. But if you really want to experience life differently, I believe you owe it to yourself to do the research. And most people would rather be apathetic. They just sit in front of the TV and drone out to being programmed than actually taking action and looking into, oh, is what Gail Kraft's saying evidence based? Is it possible that other people are aligned with her belief? And, how could this impact or help me help serve the person that I live with who may experience neurodiversity?
Right, right. And I am neurodiversive, by the way. I do, right. I do have some challenges that I deal with every single day. And so what?
But
So
but
what?
this is where so I have a client, neurodiverse, right? I tell her all the time because she has this ideology that something's wrong with her. The world has told her something's wrong with her.
Right. She's
Like,
been told.
is something wrong with you or is something wrong with the world? One, nobody's meant to sit in a classroom for 6 to 8 hours. It's sedentary. That's not
Right.
even how our human body's made up. We're meant for movement. Two, right? We're not meant to sit and absorb information droning on and on and on like that. We learn through physical activity, through play, through so I always have a hard time with, even challenges. I'm like, is it a challenge or is it an opportunity to figure out what works best for you and allow yourself to do that? And then you create structures and systems that are specific for the way in which you show up in the world, right? And that to me is important because we limit ourselves when we tell ourselves that there's something wrong with us.
For me, so I don't want to say we, for me, I grew up being told what was wrong with me, right? I mean, third grade sitting in the corner, being punished for, for whatever, um, and so forth. And I'm thankful that my diversity was not diagnosed because I got to figure out my life on my own without being told I was broken,
Can I
right?
tell you?
Well, no,
I sh-
well, nobody is really broken. Like
Well, this
everyone
is
is
what I'm
just.
saying, being told I
but
was
that's
broken.
what people are
Well,
told,
no, I
Yanko.
mean
And
you're gonna get told like all kinds of things. Like
but
Right.
I
that's the
know, I
thing.
understand that. Yeah.
Well, I'll never forget. I kid you not. Now I grew up in a pretty traumatic experience, right? Not good, not bad. Just for my nervous system, it did not serve my nervous system. Okay. I'll never forget. My mother takes me to this psychiatrist. I'm 12 years old. Okay. And this guy starts listing off what's wrong with me and that I need medication. Okay. This man was 400 pounds. I'm not even kidding you. And this is where I love my will. Because at 12, I couldn't have told you why it didn't feel right. I had no concept of that. But I just knew that there was a huge disconnect. And whatever he was selling me, I wasn't buying. And that was my great, I think my greatest gift is that I'm highly willful. I'm like, listen, if it feels good, I got you. I'm bought in. I love my relationship with Gail because it feels good. It's nurturing. It's yummy. But I'll tell you what, one of my best friends in the world, love her. She went through the wars with me. It no longer felt good to be in that space with her because we had grown apart consciously. And then there was this friction. And I was willful enough to be like, nah, nope, I'm not buying what this is anymore. I can't. Just because it was doesn't mean it still has to be. And I walked away. And
I've
that's
walked
what
away from
I
family.
encourage.
Yeah.
I strongly encourage people to give themselves permission to do what feels good for them, what really feels good for them. Like my niece, beautiful girl, went to a party out of guilt the other day. And as a result, what happened? Massive anxiety, felt icky, sticky. And then subsequently, a whole situation came up with the family and her. When really, and I told her after, and we talked about it, she should have just been like, doesn't feel good, not going. I don't care if you come to my parties. This isn't personal with you. This is personal for me, and I'm going to take care of me.
I learned the hard way
Well,
as well to follow my instinct,
Yeah.
right? When it comes to that. And for me, and this is a lot of women have this issue, I can't say no in the past. I
I
can't
just say,
say
oh,
no because I can't hurt your feelings,
mm,
right? And in my saying yes when I should have said no, disaster again happens. And
always.
so now I say no, and I never have to explain why to anybody, uh, even to myself. It doesn't feel right. Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, Yanko. We keep cutting you off, and I've got to go because I've
no,
got a
I was gonna,
11 o'clock
I was gonna say
finish.
it's not only women, and it applies to everyone. And
Yeah.
um, if you're anything in life, apply it. Don't just read about it. Like you were saying earlier, Gail, you want people that actually go through the experience, not just reading for something
Right.
in a book and just spinning tales of like, because what are you doing? It's actually just like keep imagining about something that you don't really know exists
You're
or not.
promoting dogma. You're
Um,
not promoting experience.
right. So if to come back to the experience, if you have the experience, then you know from experience, and that's the one thing. And then everything else just happens naturally. Like the mind likes to cling to things because it's afraid to, there will be a limited thing or something will go on. So when the journey is done, it's done. It's like look at it this way: you walk around. Thank you, Gail.
I love you
Thank
guys.
you. We love
You
you too.
we love you too. You walk around with somebody and you're just walking with somebody, and then there's a time when the path separates and then each has to take his own path.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that. It's not bad or good. It's just like time it's up. Like like anything in time, you got a beginning, you got an end. Everything has to come to a point. So it's not bad that you got to let go of somebody, or good that you got to let go of somebody. It's something that just happened. Like,
Yeah.
is it bad that it's, sun is rising in the morning and setting down in the evening? It's not. It's something that just happens. So that's what I wanted to add to the whole thing.
Well, it's so funny you said, and what you said is spot on. You said you need to take action. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know so many people who have licenses, doctorates, whatever, have never taken action or applied what they learned. And as a result, they don't have wisdom. I'm going to tell you, and the book that I just read reinforced what I already know. I am hands down, unequivocally an expert in changing your mind, unequivocally changing your life. Why? I've been doing it since I was 14. I'm 44 years old. I absorb knowledge, I implement it, I play with it, I learn, I toss some knowledge, I learn more knowledge, I implement it, and that's what Yanko and I want for all of you guys. Don't listen. I don't care. You don't have to believe a word I say. Just go put it into action, right? Because that is how you learn. I teach manifesting to certain people, right? Because they're at a place where they're loving, and I want them to manifest love. I don't want them to manifest icky sticky, which is what most people do. But like, I tell them there's proof you can manifest something right now. Literally, the reticulating activating system in our brain will help you find the thing that you tell your brain to look for. It's just that we have not applied ourselves and taken action to do so. And it's interesting. I want to go back one more thing, because I was talking about me holding people accountable. The last company job I was in, I helped build this $122 million company that I didn't have my name on. So I put in the work, but got nothing. And that's great, because it taught me that I could build my own company and have. Um, but I quit on the spot after building this company when a leader told me that I no longer had to hold people accountable for following through on the actions that, one, they agreed to do when they signed the job description, and two, that were part of the requirement to work under me, that I made very clear when I hired them, because communication, clear as kind. And I quit on the spot. And that's why I tell people in my coaching business, Yanko, I am holding you accountable to what you commit to do for yourself. And what you commit to do for yourself is hard, even if it's drinking a glass of water every day, because you were not used to doing that. It's okay. It gets to be hard. You get to be frustrated, but you do not get to quit. Not working with me, because it goes back to why I know I'm an expert. I always take action, even when I don't want to, even when it's hard, even when it feels uncomfortable, because in that action, I know I'm training my brain to know peace, love, compassion, and joy. And that's what I want for everybody.
Spot on. I wanted to get to a point to acknowledge Tarek, one of our frequent supporter and viewer. Good morning
Tarek,
to you.
when are we
Happy
going to have a
Friday.
one-on-one, my friend? I've never met Tarek in person. You should make a connect.
I No, I met him. We had wonderful conversations a couple of times through a mutual friend. So maybe one of those days we'll bring Tarek on and have him join the conversation, because he's really cool person to be around with and have a conversations with. So thanks for
Yeah, I
stopping
love
by and
it.
saying
You are
hello.
welcome
And
anytime, and
and
you can share my information. Actually, literally, my phone number is on my website. I tell people call me unexpectedly, because those are the best conversations anyway. So, and if I can pick up, I will, and if I can't, I'll call you back. So, all right, with a couple minutes left, I feel like oh wow, we're late. What do you want to leave the audience with?
No, that's what I was gonna say. Like, would love to hear from our audience, because it really helps us know how to support you and what to help you with, or how to be of service to you. So anything you like to share or discuss with us, like Kerri said, our numbers are on our websites. You have it on social media. Um, Maybe like or share our information with other people that you think might benefit from having to watch our show or getting in touch with us. We'll really appreciate that. That also helps the algorithm to get us going and will help support us. So we support you, you support us if you like. Or give us
I
thumbs
love it.
down. That's also okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, Yanko and I love people who disagree with me too, because you know what, guys, that helps me open and expand my mind as well. So please don't feel like, you know, you have to agree with us to reach out, because I honor and welcome all conversations. Truly, truly. So with that, so much love. We will catch you on the flip side, aka next Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Central. Lots of love to you guys.
And we have very something very special planned for that Friday. So maybe don't miss it. That's all I'm gonna say. A spoiler.